DNA evidence and advanced technology being credited for answers to two Virginia cold cases. They were unsolved for more than 3 decades. One man believed to be responsible for both.
For nearly 40 years, two families in Virginia lived with a wound that never healed and a question that never faded. Who did this? In November 1986, Stafford County was quieter than it is today. Fewer people, fewer buildings. The kind of place where most neighbors knew each other by name. That's where Jacqueline Lard built her life. Born in 1954, she was a dedicated real estate agent, a wife, and a mother of 2. Her husband worked for the DEA, and together they were raising their children in what seemed like a stable, loving home. On November 14, 1986, Jacqueline stayed late at her office at Mount Vernon Realty. Around 9 p.m., she wrapped up her work. It was routine. Nothing unusual. No sign that this would be the last time anyone would see her alive. The next morning, everything changed. When coworkers arrived, they found signs of a violent struggle inside the office. Furniture had been disturbed. Something terrible had happened. Jacqueline was gone. So was her car. Detectives from the Stafford County Sheriff's Office, along with Virginia State Police and the FBI, rushed to the scene. They treated it like the worst-case scenario. Every inch of that office was processed. Fibers, fingerprints, biological material, anything that could point to the attacker was carefully collected and preserved. One day later, in a wooded area in Woodbridge, 2 young people made a horrifying discovery. Beneath a piece of discarded carpet lay Jacqueline's body. Her car would later be found abandoned in Fairfax County. The community was shaken. A professional woman abducted from her workplace and murdered? It didn't make sense. Investigators followed every lead. They interviewed potential suspects. They ran evidence through available databases. They even extracted DNA. But in the 1980s, DNA technology was still in its early stages. The sample was stored, entered into systems as technology improved, and compared repeatedly through CODIS, the National DNA Database. No match. Years passed. The file grew thicker, but answers never came. Jacqueline's case slowly became one of Stafford County's most painful cold cases. Then, in 1989, tragedy struck again. Amy Baker was only 18 years old. Born on March 16, 1971, in Springfield, Virginia, she was the cherished daughter of Mark Baker and Sue Iser. The Baker family had recently moved from Falls Church to Hartwood in Stafford County, hoping for a quieter life and more space. Amy was adjusting, but she often returned to Falls Church to visit friends. She was vibrant, creative, and full of plans. She played varsity field hockey and loved photography. She dreamed of attending art school in Savannah, Georgia. At the time, she worked as an event photographer at a local mall, capturing smiling children with Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. On March 29, 1989, Amy was driving home to visit her parents when her blue 1970 Volkswagen Beetle ran out of gas on Interstate 95. She left the vehicle and started walking toward a nearby Exxon station. She never made it. When she didn't arrive home, her mother grew anxious. Sue Baker called hospitals, towing companies, relatives, and police throughout the night. By morning, she learned Amy's car had been found abandoned. At first, some investigators suggested Amy may have left voluntarily, but her purse and belongings were still inside the car. There was no indication she had planned to disappear. Police searched the area. A helicopter scanned from above. Tips came in. But as hours turned into days, fear set in. Refusing to wait, Sue and her sister-in-law created homemade missing person posters. In a time before social media, they personally drove around, posting flyers and asking strangers if they had seen Amy. Then, near the Backlick Road exit ramp in Springfield, close to where her car had been found, they walked into a wooded area. That's where they found her. Amy's body lay hidden among foliage, only yards from the highway. She had been beaten, sexually assaulted, and strangled. She had been killed within hours of leaving her car. The loss devastated her family. The fact that they found her themselves made the pain even sharper. Just like Jacqueline's case, investigators collected evidence, including DNA. They asked the public about 2 vehicles seen near Amy's car, a dark early 1980s Buick and a blue Ford Escort. A Crime Stoppers caller claimed to have crucial information but never called back. Despite efforts by local and state law enforcement, the case stalled. 2 women, 2 brutal murders, 3 years apart. For decades, no one officially connected them. Behind the scenes, however, something important was happening. Evidence from both crime scenes was preserved carefully. Detectives never destroyed it. They never gave up completely. Sheriff David Decatur, who had joined the Stafford County Sheriff's Office in 1986, remained deeply connected to Jacqueline's case from the beginning. He refused to let it disappear into history. As the years passed, forensic science evolved. By the early 2000s, forensic investigative genetic genealogy had begun solving cold cases across the United States. This technique combines DNA analysis with genealogical research, building family trees from shared genetic markers. Detective Dave Wood decided it was time to try. The County Board of Supervisors approved funding for advanced testing. This wasn't cheap. Private labs would be involved, but the potential reward was justice. Evidence from Amy's case was submitted in 2021 to Bode Technology, which developed a comprehensive DNA profile. When uploaded into Virginia's state database, something incredible happened. The DNA matched evidence from Jacqueline Lard's murder. For the first time in nearly 40 years, investigators knew both women had been killed by the same man. The cases were officially linked. Working with Parabon Nanolabs, specialists in DNA phenotyping and genetic genealogy, detectives began building a family tree based on the suspect's DNA. They traced relatives, narrowing down possibilities. In December 2023, they identified a family name that stood out. Their investigation led to a man living quietly in Stafford County, Elroy Neal Harrison. Born in 1959, Harrison had a criminal past. In 1983, he had been arrested for bank robbery and served time in prison. He was released on June 30th, 1986, just months before Jacqueline was murdered. Detectives obtained a search warrant to collect his DNA. In February 2024, the Virginia Department of Forensic Science confirmed the match. The DNA from both crime scenes belonged to Elroy Neal Harrison. After nearly 4 decades, the unknown killer finally had a name. On March 4th, 2024, a Stafford County grand jury indicted Harrison on charges including first-degree murder, abduction with intent to defile, aggravated malicious wounding, and breaking and entering related to Jacqueline Lard's case. He also faced charges connected to Amy Baker's murder. On March 5, 2024, law enforcement officers arrested him at his home. At 65 years old, Harrison was booked into Rappahannock Regional Jail without bond. For Jacqueline's son, Edwin Lard, the news brought complicated emotions. His mother was the victim, but he refused to be one. Amy's parents expressed something different. They had waited 35 years. They once believed they might die without ever knowing who killed their only daughter just 13 days after her 18th birthday. They don't call it closure, because you can't close something like that. You can't put a lid on grief. But they believe it is one step closer to justice. 2 families, 2 lives stolen, decades of silence. And in the end, the breakthrough didn't come from a witness, a confession, or luck. And investigators who refused to let time erase the truth. Justice may have been delayed by nearly 40 years, but it finally arrived.